I approached a hotel in Cambridge about putting on my own show, a weekly or bi-weekly show. And I was in conversations with them for about a year, sort of emails to and fro, meetings throughout. And we were moving along this kind of progression line. If you imagine this progress sort of bar beaming along after each meeting, more notes, more feedback, me thinking of ideas for the show. And then it got to general management, and then the owners were made aware that I existed and about the project. There was a lot of buzz and hype about this. And then suddenly it all just fell flat. So there was sort of 2 months of radio silence. And I later found out that some things happened, staffing management wise, reshuffling, people left. Other things took priority, and basically this project was put to the bottom of the list. And it was no hard feelings, you know, the relationship is still there, and I'm quite grateful that that fell flat, because it made room and made space for other projects which I've taken on, and I'll be moving into 2025, which I'll be talking about later on. Stay tuned. And the things that I learned from that process were, the first thing is I'm really good at articulating myself and getting across my message and wrapping up in a way which is both valuable for me and for the other parties. I think previously, if I had approached a hotel, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I wouldn't have had the skill set to articulate what I wanted and the vision in a convincing way with any kind of weight to it. And I think over the years, it's just the nature of getting older and doing more of this in business. I've grown as a performer, that's one aspect of it, but it's show business. The show part, as a performer, I've grown. The business part, I've definitely grown as well. I can articulate myself, I know my value and my worth, I know what I can bring to the table, and that comes across in my delivery and contact with people. So this was kind of like a highlight of that. It was a way of going, oh, okay, I didn't have to show them anything, they never saw me perform once, and yet we were in conversations, and it was, getting very, very close to the green light of saying, okay, let's go ahead. The other thing is I really enjoy one-to-one meetings and going through that whole organization, ideation, planning process, and kind of being deep in the kind of the nuts and bolts of putting a project like that together. I really enjoy that, and I kind of thrive when I'm immersed in those moments. So that's another thing I learned. And also, I now have a much better understanding for how hotels operate, what they're looking for, what their pain points are, and the value that they're looking for, and what they're actually worried about. I'm much more aware of that. So I think what I've taken away from that process is I can take that skill set and that knowledge and understanding, and we can rebuild that relationship in the future, or I can go to any other venue at any point in the future, take that skill set and knowledge that I have and be able to pitch it just a much more concisely, so it hits all of those pain points on the head, and we're kind of through. So yeah, I've moved myself much further along my future self if I ever wanted to take up a project like this. And finally, I think this was a case of right project, wrong timing. It was the wrong timing for them because stuff happened, but also, on reflection, it was the wrong time for me. I don't think that's actually what I wanted to do. I got really excited about it, and then I started to look at it into the distance of this kind of weekly or bi-weekly show. It means I'm pinned to Cambridge. I can't go away for long periods of time. Am I gonna have enjoyment and fun from that one show? If that's gonna be my kind of core focus for the next, indefinitely, for years to come. And that excited me to begin with, but then I started to realize, there are other things I'd like to do and other projects I'd like to achieve before I make that move. Having my own show in a hotel would, it's a dream. I'd love to do it one day. When the right time comes, I'm much better equipped. So I've learned all those things from the hotel show. And also, patience is key. Next up is the magic coaching business. And this is a side project I have called Giving Magic, helping magicians strive for magical excellence. And this year we doubled in alumni, so the number of students. We tripled the number of sessions held, and we also held our first in-person live workshop, which was really exciting. It was authenticity in magic and how to bring out your authentic self and apply it to your magic and turn you into a bit more of an individual when you're performing. It was a really great session, great workshop, took on the feedback. Moving into 2025, I'm gonna be applying that and making next year's even better. Excited about that. I'll be hosting at least 3 this year, each with a different focus. But I think what I learned about that is I really enjoy one-on-one coaching and helping people through the pain points that I once experienced and just understanding things on a different level and understanding themselves better. And also, I've realized I'm really good at it. The feedback that I'm getting and the jumps in progress that the students I'm working with have made is quite incredible. I mean, the trajectory has just gone upwards, steeply upwards as well. The learning curve and the ability for people to apply themselves and apply the work that we put together in those sessions. So that's been really inspiring, and I'm quite proud of myself for sticking with it. And yeah, I really love it. And also, that big things have to start small. And it's this slow kind of progress and chipping away at an idea to try and eventually get this bigger goal that we have. And a university of magic is something that's been on my goals list for many years. I don't know how I was going to do it. I still don't know how I'm going to do it. But I feel that giving magic is the first kind of little chip at that big idea, and it's going really well. I became a Doctor of Magic in 2024 at the 4F Magic Convention. It's a by-invitation only magic conference, open to the top 1% of magicians globally. You get invited for the first 3 years to perform. You have to perform, it's compulsory. And you earn your bachelor's, then in year 2, your master's, then in year 3, you get your doctorate in magic. And 2024 saw me get my doctorate to a standing ovation. Hands down, the highlight of my career so far, getting a standing ovation from that audience, incredible. There are a few things that came from that particular performance. The first thing is I created an original routine with one of the oldest magic tricks in the world, the cups and balls. And I think that goes to show that there's always something to be added to something old. You know, progression is never ending. You think something's done with, but it's not. You just have to add your own little twist to it, or your own little nuances here and there, and then you've got something that's brand spanking new that you can call your own. So I think I've learned that from that process, is that you can take anything as old as the hills, twist it slightly, play with it, come up with new ideas, and then it suddenly becomes your own. The core ideas for that act came about over 5 years ago. I bought a really nice set of cups and balls, treated myself, played around with them, came up with some cool ideas, put them away. Maybe a year later, did the same thing, put them away. So every now and again, I'll dip in and out of them. And the core ideas for the act that got me that standing ovation came from all of those ideas that I was playing around with years ago. So it's also taught me to always film ideas. I'll never know when I'll need to use them. The other thing I came away with was this idea of collaboration. A friend of mine, Scott, helped me a lot with this act. Problem solving, building things, and just making it as good as it possibly could. And also, while I was at the convention, I was doing some rehearsing at about midnight with my roommate, a guy called Will Fern. And there were some other guys there who were doing some final tech bits. And as me and Will were rehearsing, they decided to take a seat and get involved as well. And I had 3 or 4 guys just offering me honest feedback on the angles, some moves, and right at the end, we spent about 3 hours, so from about midnight to 3 a.m. just sessioning. And I really loved that process of working with a group of people and just refining and taking on feedback, tweaking, and just adjusting until it was, you know, just right. And then right at the end of that session, Will showed me this move that he came up with and said, oh, you know, if I'd known earlier, I would have shown you this move and you could incorporate that into the act. And I took this ball from him, did the move perfect first time, and he was like, you motherfucker. He then dared me, basically. He said, if you put that in the act tomorrow, then I'll give you $20. I was like, okay, it's in. So yeah, I also earned $20 from that too. So the things I learned from creating the 4F act are learn to trust myself, trust the process, which I think is a big one. Having collaborators is invaluable. Asking for help is okay. Film ideas. I'll never know when I'll need them. And also, taking risks pays off. Thanks for the $20, Will. Appreciate it. Next up is the Whispers of Wonder Magic Show. Now, an ex-client of mine contacted me. They now work for the National Trust. And if you're not from the UK, the National Trust is a company that looks after over 500 heritage sites around the UK. They turn old buildings, which have history attached to them, turn them into visitor centres, which you can then go along, have a cup of tea, have some lunch, walk around the grounds. They're kept alive because the National Trust are looking after them. So a very cool venue. They initially contacted me for like a garden party vibe. I then changed that into an evening magic experience where you'd enter 3 rooms of mystery and experience something very special in those 3 rooms from 3 separate performers throughout the evening. It was a great experience to perform in. I really enjoyed that environment. But the planning and the production side was way more intense than I could have ever imagined. Managing every aspect of the show, it was a co-production, it was a lot of back and forth, a lot of red tape, because the National Trust are a big company, and they've got a fair amount of red tape to protect themselves and the public, which is perfectly understandable. But I think I underestimated how intense that process was going to be, and quite how much back and forth there was going to be. I also underestimated the time that it was going to consume. That project I thought was going to consume this amount of time, and it consumed like this much. And it's not just time, it's also headspace and thinking about managing everything. It just took a lot more energy, and yeah, it was quite an exhausting process. I now have a better idea of what it takes to produce a show of that ilk. So moving forwards into 2025, I'm going to be a little bit better prepared, and maybe I'll say no to more things, because I know that when a big project like this comes along, I'd like to kind of take it by the horns rather than be stretched too thin. One thing that I found with it was, because it was a co-production, I learned about myself that I'm not very good, or I wasn't very good, at relinquishing control. I kind of wanted to control all the dials and all the buttons and basically be the Wizard of Oz, kind of controlling everything, when in actual fact it was a co-production from the start. It would have served myself better had I relinquished some control. I'm going, okay, you deal with the marketing side and the designs, you can deal with that, I'll deal with the nuts and bolts of getting people in the right places, making sure that the show is of the right level, and the things that I should have been focusing on. I think moving into 2025, I will learn to have periodic check-ins, but then let go of the finer detail and just put on the best experience possible without sweating the details. I think that's what I've learned. Was the biggest takeaway from this, at least. But the show almost sold out. Feedback was great, and there's dates penciled in for 2025, so that's all good stuff. Trust others with their tasks, choose my battles, double check important tasks have been actioned by others. That's a good point, actually. There was a mistake that was made on the National Trust side. Something wasn't actioned. Had it have been actioned, we would have sold out. So I think the lesson I've learned is to check in on the bigger tasks to make sure they have been actioned. But regardless, even though that didn't happen, we managed to almost sell out the production in under 7 weeks, which is completely unheard of at the National Trust, I've later been told. So it was quite an accomplishment for everybody involved, myself, the National Trust team, and we all put a lot of hard work into that. So yeah, I think trusting others with their work, choosing my battles, and I overestimated what I could do in 7 weeks. Yeah, I underestimated how much I can accomplish in a single day. Next up is I went to Greece with my partner, Hayley. It was our first sunny holiday away, and Hayley pretty much planned everything. I just kind of turned up, and I'm really grateful for her doing that, because, I mean, organising stuff just isn't my thing. Itineraries, picking hotels, choosing flights. I hate choosing flights with a passion. So many decisions to make. I just get choice paralysis. So I was really grateful for Hayley to kind of take that by the horns and plan all of that for us both. And it was a really great trip. Hayley is much more of a outdoorsy person and wants to experience things and kind of dive in the deep end and kind of get stuck in on things. I was encouraged to go into the sea. I think I went to the sea every single day. Ordinarily, I would never go into the sea. I might have a little dip up to my knees, but we were going proper into the sea, out of my depth kind of vibes. Not too deep. I don't like deep water, if I'm honest. But we went snorkeling, saw some fish. We also hired a car, travelled around the area, visited other beaches. We just experienced more, and I think I've learned that I really enjoyed that. And I'm really grateful for Hayley encouraging that. On the last day, or the day before the last day, I did some magic for the staff that had been looking after us at the hotel. And I realised that, way back when I was 19, I put in this kind of boundary for performing magic. There was me at work, and then there's me in my personal life, and I very rarely perform in my personal life. Friends, family, ex-partners, they've never really seen much of me performing after that point, when I kind of hit 19. And I kept them very separate. But on this particular trip, it just felt like I could have done a few little things earlier on in the trip and given more magic to them and created more of a relationship and a vibe where I was at. It just felt like I was missing. I could have done more, and I think I should. I think I would like to do more magic off the cuff in my everyday life. So it will be a slow burner, but I think it's something that I can do, therefore why not? I think is the answer I've got for myself. I'm not going to say should, it's a bit too harsh, but I've definitely learned that. My learnings are: be grateful for the things others do. Thank you, Hayley. I'm capable of more than I think I am. I thrive when given the right encouragement, definitely. Magic doesn't have to be quite so separate from my private life, and downtime is more important than I ever remember it is. That is so true. After that holiday, I came back bursting with ideas and creative kind of energy. I think having more of those trips and purposefully putting time aside to have downtime is really important. So next up is Australia. Yes, I visited Australia in 2024 with Lee Hathaway. We were planning this trip for so long. Lee introduced me to one of his friends, a girl called Ren. We got along really, really well, hung out in London, and then we had this open invitation to Sydney. And so we were planning this trip, then COVID happened, put a stop to it all. And then in July in 2024, Lee called me up and said, I've just booked a lecture tour in Sydney. If you want to come along, we can make it a joint lecture tour, and we'll go see Ren and Danny, we'll do all the stuff, and we'll do the magic stuff. And it was just like a dream come true. It all just kind of came together really, really well. I was like, yes, flights were paid for, accommodation was sorted with Ren and Danny, it was all good. We did so much, I need to look at this list. So we did a lecture tour in Brisbane, visited their club, Canberra and their club, both hosts incredible, really well looked after. We saw a secret protected nature reserve. Okay. It was basically by the side of a road. You could then look, and it just looked like a forest. But if you looked really closely, there were these flying foxes. And my God, it was the craziest shit I have ever seen. It was like looking into Jurassic Park. It was insane. Right by the road, just right there. You couldn't walk in it was all protected. And because it was overcast in Sydney, really rare, that all of these flying foxes were like out of the trees. Apparently they usually shield themselves from the sun, but they were all out. I'll show you the footage. It's just insane. That was really cool. We ate a pie there, really nice pie. We explored Sydney a load. I did some running along the beach because, when in Sydney, you've got to run along the beach, right? We played a bunch of poker. So Ren and Danny are like professional level poker players. Lee's a really good player. I'm not a great player, but I like playing. And I got a bunch of tips playing with those guys. That was really good fun. We then went on a road trip to a place called Canoundra. Now, Ren and Danny are making a big movie at the moment, and they wanted to location scout. So we joined them on this journey. I think it was 4 or 5 hours inland, and it made me realize how massive Australia is. It is huge. And we went to this place, saw where they were going to, where the opening shot of this movie is going to be. Really, really cool. And we stayed with one of their friends, a guy called Tommy, and he was like the best host ever. We stayed there for a few nights. He runs a B&B, really flamboyant, outgoing guy, really, really good fun, and a lovely home as well. And we put on a show for the local kind of well-to-do of this town, and it was really good fun, and so much so, we made it in the Canoundra local paper. A magical night. Last Saturday night, Tommy Jeffs hosted a beautiful dinner party for film producer friends Ren Thackham and Danny Bolt, and they brought acclaimed UK magicians Lee Hathaway and Matthew Lamotte along, who wowed the guests at the end of the evening with an intimate magic performance. Watch this space for when Ren and Danny return with more stars next year to shoot their blockbuster Hollywood film. Will Canoundra be included? We hope so. Thank you, Tommy, for bringing such wonderful people and characters to our town and hosting them while they are here. Oh, lovely. So yeah, that was really cool. We hit the newspapers. We were in the Blue Mountain area, staying there in an Airbnb, and Ren said, look, you're here, you have to go out and explore. Forced me and Lee into a car to go and see these Blue Mountains. We got there, it was complete fog. You couldn't see shit. It was hilarious. Anyway, the next day we then went, skies were cleared, we saw the Blue Mountains, and they are beautiful, might I add. We also did a script read-through with Ren and Danny for their movie, which was really cool. We played multiple characters with that. That was really good fun. Loved that. And then finally, we performed our joint lecture and headlining the Sydney Day of Magic, the Sydney Magic Convention. And that was really good fun. We did close-up magic in the morning, did 3 sets of that each, and then Lee had his lecture, I did my lecture, and then we both performed in the gala show at the end of the evening with a few other performers, and that was really good fun too. So all in all, Australia was a fantastic trip. I'd like to say thank you ever so much for Jack for making it all happen, the president of the Sydney Magic Club. Without him, this wouldn't have happened, so thank you to Jack. Thank you for everyone that hosted us, and for Ren and Danny, who, again, without their kind of open door policy, I doubt we would have done this trip quite as willingly. So thank you ever so much for Ren and Danny and your hospitality. Yeah, very, very cool. I think my takeaways from it was to embrace adventure. It was all kind of booked last minute. Yeah, I think it's just kind of made me realise that I should try and make an effort to organise things, become the party maker, and have people stay and just be a bit more welcoming for people. I'm a bit of a hermit. I like to spend time on my own. A bit of an introvert, so I think I'd like to do a little bit more hosting. Not too much, but just a little bit more. I think that's kind of opened my eyes to that. This is probably the biggest takeaway from that trip, and that is that the people you meet in life can make a bigger impact than you think, so give more to others. And it's definitely inspired me to give more and to, get more involved and get other people involved. So that was Australia. Hayley has moved in. She has moved from Norwich into Cambridge, and it wasn't until we were kind of days away from her moving I kind of realised, wow, this is a massive upheaval to move from another city where your friendship groups are, where your gym is, where all of your routines and where everything is, and then just get plonked straight into Cambridge, not knowing anyone or having any of those systems in place. It's quite a big undertaking, and I don't think I appreciated it quite as quickly as I could have. I'm really proud of her for how quickly she settled in, but it's also made me realise just to kind of be a bit more thoughtful and forward thinking, because I didn't really appreciate how big of an undertaking that was until it was probably a bit too close to the time. So yeah, trying to be a bit more thoughtful earlier on about thinking about the other aspects that might be involved in such a big undertaking. But since Hayley has been with us, the flat has had a massive upgrade, and I'll be doing a flat tour video at some point soon. It looks really cool. It's never been as tidy or as organised, which is really cool. Condensing stuff is not fun, just to let you know. If you've been through it, you understand what I'm talking about. But when you move in with another partner, you then have all these boxes, and then you have to take all the stuff that you own out of where it lives, merge it together, throw lots away, put loads of stuff on Marketplace, get rid of stuff, bin stuff. It's just a massive undertaking. I felt a little bit ill after it, just from like this downturn of, it was just a massive undertaking. I think Hayley wasn't feeling too great a few days afterwards either, just because, immune system just got a massive hit trying to get everything organised. But we did it very quickly. Hayley started a new job, she's loving that. So yeah, it's all going really, really well. I've also found a new rhythm to living. For the first couple of weeks, Hayley was at work in training. Since then, it's kind of been the Christmas period, so it's been a bit of a false time between over that holiday season. But I'm looking forward to this kind of new rhythm of living where it's gonna offer me routine. I've never had routine in my life, and I think, and I thought about this before. It's either I chose a career which enabled me to not have a routine, because a lot of it's late nights or middle of the day or whenever the bookings are, wherever they are, I go to them with no kind of sense of time. So waking up and going to bed times are completely invented. I've never had a structured routine. Whereas now with Hayley, she's got a definite bedtime, definite get up time, which means I'm falling more aligned with that rhythm. And it feels good. I'm not sure how sustainable it is for me because I'm quite a night owl, but for the time being, we've found a really good rhythm with it and a good habit, and I'm really, really happy with that. And yeah, everything's going really well. So that's been a really, really cool thing to experience. And another thing is that kindness and communication are key to a healthy relationship, but also moving in together, just being kind about the situation. Like if there's something that kind of bugs you, think of it in a less righteous way and try and be a bit more understanding. And that goes both directions. So yeah, there's a few bugs that have kind of come up, but nothing major, and it's all been solved pretty quickly. So yeah, it's kind of the useless bickering is part of the process, right? But the learnings I have is I'm grateful for all that Hayley does, and the endless enthusiasm and support she brings to my life, encouraging me to film this video, in fact, but also to get loads of other things done, and the amount that she does for me is incredible. She's great. Superstar. Yes, and also that fun is the secret to a happy relationship. I think without fun, it's boring, isn't it? Or it just becomes mundane, and we're always having fun. Just we play characters with each other, we tell jokes, we've got long, ongoing running jokes, and it's just fun. Even if we're doing the washing up or the cooking, trying to have fun with it. Yeah, it just comes naturally, so that's really good. And also, having 2 sieves. That is a life hack. 2 sieves. Be a 2-sieve household. Highly recommended. Number 8. This is a short one, but this is kind of an announcement. So if you've made it this far into the video, this is the first time I'm announcing it live. I'll be making a separate video about this. But I have been selected by the Magic Circle to represent them in the World Championships of Magic. That is happening this July 2025 in Turin, Italy. Not many lessons have been learnt from this so far because it's so new, but I'll be taking my learnings from the doctorate in magic, moving it into this, and yeah, it's kind of going through full throttle into 2025 as a massive undertaking, so that's very exciting indeed. I think part of that is just, I do have a takeaway for that. The takeaway is I either wanted to do it or I didn't, and I decided that now was the right time. And this harks back to an earlier point, which is about the hotel, which I learned earlier on in the year, sort of January, February time. This came much later on in November. I think what I've learned is there's a right time and place for things, and I think now is the right time for this particular approach to that competition. I'm not going in it to win it, psychologically I am, but this is mainly a exploration of how the World Championships feels, how it operates, and doing my best. I think I'll be re-entering in 3 years' time. So it's like the Olympics of Magic. It happens once every 3 years. So that's the biggest takeaway, I think, is taking more risk and just kind of going for it when it feels like it's the right time. And finally, I spent Christmas with Hayley's family in Wales, and I took my mum along, and it was the first time that our parents had met. So that was really cool. My mum got to meet Hayley's mum and dad. We spent Christmas there, and it's just always wholesome vibes there. There was music, food, just general hanging out. It was really just lovely. Her brother Greg is a really talented musician. Her mum is a talented pianist and violinist. Her dad's really good in the kitchen, loves cooking and things, and it's just this kind of really wholesome vibes. We went out for a bike ride, which is now turned into a semi-tradition. It's happened in the last 2 years, so it's probably going to happen next year, of going down to the pub on Boxing Day and having a pint down there. And my mum went along, we went on the tandem bike. So yeah, it's just really, really lovely. Greg came over with the kids. And yeah, it was just nice to have a full house and for my mum to meet Hayley's wider family. So to meet her nan, Sylvia, her uncle Hugh. And yeah, it was just really good vibes. I think my main learnings from that was I enjoy a busy home at Christmas time. I think I've learnt that. I like having people around and motion happening and feeling like there's things that are happening and things to do. I like that feeling. Getting involved is more fun. I think going out for a bike ride, going out for a walk, or doing whatever it is that we were doing, I think this harks back to Hayley on the Greece holiday actually. It's getting me out of my skin a bit. And yeah, I rarely regret getting outdoors, no matter how cold it is. That was my 2024 in a nutshell. I'll be looking back at this video. It's mainly a reflective video for me, but if there are any takeaways for you guys, then let me know your biggest takeaway in the comment box below. If you like this video, you'll probably like this one over here. And until next time, I'll see you in the next one in a bit.